Hi, today we're making keycaps out of resin. If you're really into keycaps like I really am, you've probably already seen the cat paw keycaps. In fact, I thought they were so cute, I bought a mold to make some for myself. But today we're not just making any old boring cat paw keycaps. I'm gonna be
adding a little bit of spice
to all of these. Sorry, I don't know what that was. I think there was a bubble in my throat. Anyways, if you've worked with resin before, or even if you haven't but want to, you should know that there is a working window with this mixture before it becomes too thick and viscous to work with. I think different brands will have different working times, but for the specific resin that I'm working with, I have about 45 minutes-ish. So I really have to plan out everything I'm doing beforehand before I actually go into it, because I am known to panic when time is running out. So anyways, here you can see me plan out the different paws that I want to make. My mold can hold 6 cat caps, so that's how many different ones I'm going to be making today. The first one is going to be a big cat paw with a tiny little baby cat paw inside its paw. The second one is a similar concept, except for a tiny cat paw, it's going to be a tiny cat face. The third one is going to have white bean toes and gold flakes inside. I was running out of ideas here, so I was gonna make number 4 a classic pink bean toe with a white body, but I changed the idea while I was actually working with the resin to a pink gradient with a white body just to add a little bit more spice. And I'm so excited to see how that turns out. Oh yeah, I haven't actually seen any of these yet because I made them yesterday afternoon night-ish, and resin takes 24 whole hours to cure. And I don't want to disturb them yet, so I don't know if they actually turned out well, but I'm so excited to find out. I'll unmold them at the very end, so stay tuned to see how they turn out. Number 5 is going to be blue tinted with white tinted bean paws, and we'll have 2 goldfishes swimming inside. And last but not least, number 6. Number 6 will have pink bean toes with a pink sakura flower in the middle. Here's me finalizing all the colors and smaller details. And now let's get started on the actual making part. I'm going to be making the smaller components first, so for this step I used these tiny molds, gel nail polish, a small silicone cup to mix the gel in, a dotting tool, a UV lamp, and of course my cat keycap molds. So for this step I'm using tiny molds. They were marketed for nail art design molds, but they're actually perfect to fit inside resin keycaps. I'll also be using UV gel nail polish to make the smaller components, since that one I can cure instantly. This is a great substitute if you only need a little bit but don't want to buy a whole bottle of UV resin. Although I would only recommend using it for the smaller details, since it can get quite costly if you use it this way. For the larger areas, I used the 2-part resin. When filling the molds, I use the fine-tipped dotting tool, but really any fine-tipped object will work. I used to use toothpicks and those like barbecue skewers when I first started working with resin. I'm not doing the tiny molds in any particular order, just doing whichever one I grab first. For the sakura flower, I was trying to make a gradient in the petals by having the darkest color in the center and putting a little bit of white on the outsides. Once I'm happy with how it looks, I'll pop it in my lamp and get started on the next one. Same dealio with the cat paw. I mix my desired color, drop a dot of gel polish, trying to cover the whole surface, and sort of massage the bottom with my dotting tool to make sure there are no bubbles left. I flip it over to check the underside for bubbles, and if there are none, I pop it in the curing lamp. Same thing for the white cat face. Now on to the fishies. I forgot to include this in my material list, but I also used acrylic paints. I mixed a little dab of yellow and red to make a goldenish orange for the body of my goldfish, along with clear gel nail polish. You want to mix a tiny bit at a time, because if your acrylic paint to gel polish ratio is too high, it will not cure. It will be sticky no matter how long you leave it in the lamp. So work little by little at a time and try not to add too much acrylic. I wanted the tail to be translucent because goldfishies really do be like that. So I added a bit of clear nail polish along with some semi-transparent white and blended it into the body. I cured the fishies for another like 60 or so seconds. And this is how they're looking so far. Excuse my crusty looking nails. My skin gets really dry, especially in the winter. Now Now that all the tiny components are done, we'll be making the bean paws and solidifying everything we just made with a thin layer of clear polish. So I've just laid out where everything is going to go, and I have my iPad here in the corner to reference off of. Starting with the first one, the cat pawception cap, we'll be using the leftover gel polish we had from making the tiny paw and fill in the big bean toes. I don't have enough here, so we're going to be attempting to color match with some more gel polish. You can see that the color is a bit lighter than our original one, and this is actually where I got the idea for the gradient paw we'll see in number 4. La-di-da-di-da. Filling in the bean toes and making the clear base for number 2, number 1, number 6, and curing it for about 30 seconds. Then filling the rest of number 2's pad with light pink, making sure there are no bubbles and curing again. Let's fast forward because the rest is really repetitive. It's just me filling in the bean toes and making sure there are no visible bubbles. Now we're back to number 2 and drawing those stripes I almost forgot about. Now it's time for the big boy resins. I used Artresin because I saw a review online of how Artresin was supposed to yellow the least, but some of my older keycaps still yellowed, so that is very disappointing. Unless I did something wrong, which I don't think I did because I followed the instructions. Maybe I got a faulty bottle. Anyways, each keycap holds approximately 3 milliliters. A little less actually, but I'd rather make too much than too little with this time-sensitive project. So 3 times 6, 18, divided by 2, because I have a resin and a hardener, is 9 ml each. So I need 9 milliliters of equal parts hardener and resin. You should follow the instructions that came with your resin if you're making these too, but for mine, I had to mix for 3 minutes. I'm separating mine into smaller batches so I can mix different colors, and I'm going to start with the goldfishies because I can. For this one, number 5, I decided on a transparent blue body. The cross-section of a keycap is where the bubbles love to hide out, so I like to start with this part and add resin to one corner, making it slowly fill up the gaps. Let's hope I got rid of all those bubbles. And you may be wondering where the fishies are. Well, I haven't actually added them yet. I wanted to fill up the cross-section as best as I could without any distractions, and now that I've done that, I'm going to secure them in place with a tiny bit of gel polish and my trusty dusty, it's not dusty, it's clean, my trusty UV lamp. Now I'll go ahead and fill up the body. Like I said before, I like to pour my resin in one corner so it slowly fills up all the gaps by itself. This prevents any big bubbles from occurring, but if you don't have a vacuum or pressure chamber, you'll probably still have a little bit of small air bubbles here and there. Remember, we still have to place the top on, or in this case the bottom, depends on how you look at it. Anyway, so I fill a good amount, but leave little room at the top in anticipation for the cross-section that has the fish on it. Next, I want to do number 3, which was yellow tinted with gold bits. So I added a tiny bit of yellow here and mixed it very well. I poured half the resin in the mold and kept half to add the gold bits because I knew some of them would sink down. However, I did not anticipate all of them sinking down. I guess the gold flakes I used were too heavy. There's nothing I can do now. I filled in the cross section and mixed this tabby orange for number 2. Filled in its cross section and poured the bulk of its body. Now the rest of the caps had or are white, so I left it for the end to mix all the leftover resin with. This is pretty easy and straightforward, so I'll just skip ahead to number 6. Number 6 is the Sakura paw with the marble effect. So I added my main color, which was no color. I added the clear resin I kept on the side, and with a dotting tool I coated the entire length with a generous amount of white and swirled it into the clear cap. For this, you want to really try hard not to over mix because we want to be able to see those white streaks. And try to get rid of as many bubbles as I can. Bubbles are our number 1 enemy. You can see that a lot of tiny bubbles have made their way to the surface, so we're just gonna scoop them out as best as we can. And finally place the cross sections on top. Make sure everything is centered, and we're done. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next. Just kidding. Here's how they turned out.